The atmosphere inside the Yamaha Pramac garage at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, was thick with a tension that hadn't been seen since the season opener. Behind the privacy screens, a transformation was taking place, one that wasn't just about carbon fiber or engine maps, but about the very soul of a rider who had been pushed to his breaking point. Toprak Razgatlıoğlu, the man they called the braking monster, was about to abandon the very philosophy that made him a world champion. For months the paddock whispered that his MotoGP move was a mistake, a collision between a rider who refused to bend and a bike that refused to brake. But in the sweltering heat of Catalonia, the narrative was about to take a sharp, unexpected turn. No one expected what would unfold next, and it would change everything for him, his team, and the entire 2026 championship race. The 2026 season was supposed to be the coronation of a new era. When Toprak Razgatlıoğlu made the jump from World Superbike to the Yamaha Pramac MotoGP project, the hype was staggering. He wasn't just another rider, he was a phenomenon. In the production-based world, Toprak had rewritten the rules of physics, standing his bike on his front wheel at 180 miles per hour, outbreaking rivals with a ferocity that seemed impossible. Fans expected that same magic to translate instantly to the Grand Prix stage. But as the early rounds in Thailand and the Americas passed, the reality was sobering. The Stompy King was struggling. He wasn't just slow, he was fighting the machine. Every time he tried to apply his signature late braking style, the Yamaha reacted with a violence that left him bewildered. The front end would tuck, the chassis would protest, and the lap times remained stubbornly in the midfield. But behind that calm, smiling exterior he presented to the cameras, the pressure was building fast. Insiders reported that the frustration within the garage was reaching a boiling point. Toprak wanted the bike to adapt to him, but in the uncompromising world of MotoGP, the bike dictates the terms. The struggle wasn't just about bravery, it was a deep technical mismatch. In World SBK, Toprak relied on the Pirelli tires, which offer a predictable communicative slide. MotoGP's Michelin rubber is a different beast entirely, a high-performance tire that demands a surgical flowing approach. To go fast on the Yamaha, you cannot force it, you must dance with it. Throughout the first quarter of 2026, Toprak was trying to wrestle the bike. This aggressive style caused front tire temperatures to skyrocket, leading to pressure spikes that made the bike feel like it was riding on ice. Reports from the garage suggested that Toprak was becoming increasingly vocal about his dissatisfaction, repeatedly requesting settings that would make the bike more aggressive, more like his old R1 Superbike. Yet every technical change in that direction led to a dead end. He was trapped in an identity crisis. He was a master of a craft that the MotoGP bike simply didn't recognize. And from that moment, it became clear that if he didn't change his DNA as a rider, the 2026 season would be his first and last in the premier class. The turning point happened away from the cameras, in the data-heavy debriefs between the French and Spanish rounds. Yamaha's lead engineer Massimo Marigali and the Pramac crew chief began to push a radical idea. Toprak needed to stop being Toprak. They presented him with the data of Fabio Quartararo. For years, Quartararo had been the benchmark for the Yamaha YZR M1, winning through a philosophy of corner speed, the ability to maintain high velocity to the center of the turn without relying on the brake to do all the work. In the Catalunya paddock, information emerged that Toprak had finally stopped fighting the suggestion. He agreed to a total reset. He would test a weight distribution and suspension characteristic that was almost a mirror image of Fabio's. This meant moving the center of gravity forward and softening the initial stroke of the front forks. It was a setup designed for stability and flow, the polar opposite of the nose-heavy, aggressive rake Toprak had used his entire career. Inside the garage, whispers began spreading that this was Toprak's last-ditch effort to save his season. Catalunya is a brutal test for any rider, but for a Yamaha rider, it is a cathedral of corner speed. The circuit's long, sweeping bends in sectors 2 and 3 are where races are won or lost. If the bike doesn't track perfectly through these sections, the rider is left helpless. As the Friday practice sessions began, the paddock noticed something different about the 7 bike. The violent pitching under braking was gone. The bike looked composed, almost elegant, as it rolled into the technical turns. Most interestingly, reports from the initial simulation sessions showed that Toprak began to feel more comfortable entering the very areas that had previously been his weakness. The front end was no longer moving mid-corner, and he was able to maintain his racing line with an ease that shocked his own mechanics. He was no longer trying to stop the bike and turn it, he was letting it carry him. However, the real test wasn't just a fast lap. It was whether this new smooth Toprak could sustain the pace over a full race distance. In modern MotoGP, pure speed is a commodity, but consistency is the currency of champions. Previously, Toprak could produce a hero lap by risking everything, only to see his pace collapse after 5 laps as his tires cooked. But in the Catalunya simulations, the data revealed a startling shift. For the first time, Toprak's lap times were nearly identical from lap 1 to lap 15. The bike was no longer so aggressive during deceleration. allowing the rear tire to remain controlled on corner exit, a major point of contention in previous races. Some Yamaha crew members were even starting to be optimistic that Catalunya could be a turning point for his entire career trajectory. It wasn't about the podium yet. It was about the fact that Toprak seemed to be finally integrating with the bike's development direction. He was speaking the same language as the machine. But just as the team began to celebrate this breakthrough, a new rumor surfaced in the paddock regarding a technical dispute that threatened to derail the entire experiment. While the results on the stopwatch were positive, the psychological toll on Toprak was evident. To ride like Quartararo, he had to suppress his instincts. He couldn't attack the corners in the way that gave him his nickname. Paddock whispers suggested that Toprak felt he was losing his edge. That by becoming a smooth rider, he was becoming just another name on the grid rather than the unique force of nature he once was. This internal conflict reached a peak during the Saturday qualifying session. Under the pressure of a ticking clock, his old habits began to creep back in. He started overbraking, trying to find that extra tenth of a second through sheer aggression. The result, he nearly lost the front end 3 times in a single lap. It was a stark reminder there was no going back. He either had to commit fully to his new alien philosophy or accept a permanent place at the back of the pack. The twist that followed in the Sunday morning warm-up would leave even his closest team members stunned. In a rare display of inter-brand cooperation, Fabio Quartararo was seen spending an extended period in the Pramac garage on Sunday morning. In a sport defined by fierce rivalries, the master of flow was helping the king of braking decode the secrets of the Yamaha. This wasn't just a casual chat, it was a deep dive into the telemetry of the long, fast-flowing corners. Fabio understood that a strong Toprak made the entire Yamaha project stronger, especially with the 2026 technical regulations favoring the European manufacturer's V4 engines. This mentorship provided the final piece of the puzzle. Toprak realized that smooth didn't mean slow. It meant efficiency. By the time the lights went out for the Catalunya Grand Prix, the atmosphere in the garage had shifted from stressful to a quiet, focused confidence. Toprak wasn't just riding a bike with Fabio's setup. He was riding with a new understanding of what it meant to be a MotoGP rider. The race itself was a masterclass in evolution. Toprak didn't go for a do-or-die move into turn 1. Instead, he slotted into the lead group and focused on his rhythm. As the lap ticked down and others began to struggle with the degrading track surface, Toprak's Yamaha looked like it was on rails. He was hitting his marks with a surgical precision that mirrored Quartararo's best days. The rear tire, which he had complained about all season, was finally holding up, allowing him to accelerate out of the final corner with a top speed that rivaled the Ducatis. He finished the race not with a trophy but with something far more valuable, a blueprint for the future. The gap to the front had been slashed by more than 60% compared to the previous round. The experiment had worked. Yamaha had found a way to bridge the gap between their bike and their star rider's talent. As the dust settled in Barcelona, the MotoGP world realized that the Toprak problem had been solved. Stress that had defined the start of his 2026 campaign was replaced by a sense of inevitability. He had proven that he possessed the mental flexibility to dismantle his own style and rebuild it for the toughest racing series on earth. The engineers saw the communication barriers dissolve. For the first time, the rider's feel and the bike's data were in perfect harmony. But as the team packed up for the next round, a new shadow began to loom. While Catalunya suited this new smooth style, the next stop on the calendar was Mugello, the fastest, most violent track on the schedule. Success in Catalunya was a breakthrough, but was it a permanent cure or just a temporary fix for a technical circuit? Mugello would demand the very thing Toprak had just learned to suppress: extreme high-speed bravery and late braking into the legendary San Donato corner. The paddock is already buzzing with speculation. Can Toprak merge his new Quartararo-style flow with his original braking monster aggression? Or will the demands of the Italian circuit force him back into the bad habits that nearly ended his MotoGP dream before it truly began? The tension is far from over. In fact, this was only the beginning of a far bigger storm, and what happens at the next race will determine if Toprak Razgatlıoğlu is a one-hit wonder in MotoGP, or the man who will finally bring Yamaha back to the top of the world.